Okay, the final video for week 1, video 3, is going to be really short. I just want to introduce the first of our exercises on justice and also review the exercise that you just did. So, in the previous exercise, we looked at 4 evictions and tried to understand how to assign responsibility in them, right? To landlords, to the city, to tenants, to guys driving by in a car. And when we did that, we looked at who caused the event. Were they acting voluntarily? Were they breaking any rules, either official legal rules or just moral rules? And it was really complicated. It was really difficult. So I want to use this to transition to a second conception of justice. So here's one way of thinking about a difference. When we are trying to assign responsibility in these individual cases, we're looking at what we might call individual injustice. So these are unjust situations that are the result of an action of a single person. So if 2 people turn in very similar papers, and I give one of them a higher grade than the other because they paid me a bribe, that is an injustice because I'm not treating similar cases similarly. It's also purely individual in that I am the only one who is doing that, right? It is all my responsibility. So in the first exercise on eviction, we were looking at eviction from the point of view of individual injustice, and we found it very complicated. An alternative, not an alternative, a complementary notion of justice is called structural justice, or more commonly, we look at the flip side of it, structural injustice. So a structural injustice is an unjust situation that is the result of a social process that many people participate in. And this looks more like what's going on with eviction. That is, it is a process that a lot of players had a role in. And individually, it's hard to parse out who was behaving justly and who was behaving unjustly. But the whole structure seems to not be fair. The outcomes don't seem to be fair. So that moves us to talking about structural injustice. Well, in order to dive into the concepts of structural and individual injustice more deeply, we need to get a better understanding of what justice is in general. So the final exercise for this week is really straightforward. It's just a word association exercise. And again, there's no right or wrong. I just want you to list 10 words that you associate with justice. And we're going to put them all on this board here, and hopefully they'll fit. So actually, it's probably better if you use this pop-out window. And you don't need to create an account here. You can just click someplace, ideally. There you go. It says anonymous, but you want to put your name here. So I'm putting my name. And then I might say justice. Well, that has something to do with fairness. And then I would list a whole bunch of other words. I want you to list 10 words. I want to keep going with this because I want you to think as much, brainstorm as much as possible. And we're going to run low on space here pretty quickly, but you can actually drag and drop and you just create more space on this pad. So what's going to happen next is I'm going to, next week, I'm going to look at the answers that got posted here. This is part of why it's important to keep up with a weekly schedule. And I'm going to try and draw some generalizations, see if there are patterns that emerge in our concept of justice.